Mykola Malomuzh, general of the Ukrainian Army and former head of the Foreign Intelligence Service, believes Ukraine can turn the tide of the war, halt Russia's offensive, and even launch counterattacks if the Ukrainian Army adopts a new strategic and tactical approach. He shared his opinion with Espreso TV. "I believe Ukraine has the potential to stop the creeping offensive of the occupying Russian forces and launch counterattacks on specific sections of the front. The key lies in the Ukrainian Armed Forces adopting a different strategy and tactical model. Sure, we have fewer resources, but by adjusting our strategy and tactics, we can change the dynamics of the war. Preparing for strategic strikes is also critical, and for that, we need to build up reserves. It's also important to keep receiving the latest weapons from our partners. Fortunately, US military aid hasn't been cut off. I'd add that the US military-industrial complex has a vested interest in this support continuing. Let's not overlook other partners who are also providing vital assistance. With the right steps and preparations, we can stop the Russians and carry out successful strategic operations on the front line," Malomuzh explained. The general emphasized that international support and military aid are essential for Ukraine's success on the battlefield. Much depends on decisions from the Donald Trump administration, especially when it comes to increasing pressure on Russia. This could involve ramping up military aid to Ukraine or strengthening economic and energy sanctions, both of which would be powerful levers against Putin, he added. Recall Russian forces continued attacks on the so-called Ukrainian bridgehead in Kherson Oblast, but failed to advance. While some Russian military bloggers claimed attacks in the Nikolsky and Viktorivka areas, as well as Kurilivka, Ukrainian forces reportedly counterattacked near Sudza. According to Ukraine's Border Guard Service, Ukrainian defenders successfully repelled an assault by Russian mechanized units on the Sumy-Kursk border. Meanwhile, Russia's cross-border shelling of Sumy Oblast has intensified since January the 1st, and attempted incursions near Vovchansk in Kharkiv Oblast on January the 19th to the 20th were unsuccessful. Attacks near Borova also failed, although the Russian Defense Ministry claimed to have captured Novaya-Horivka southeast of the settlement. On the Lyman front, Russian troops attempted to advance near Zelena Dolina, Novosadov, Kvinitsia, Terny, Zarichny, and Serebryansky Forest, but failed to achieve any major breakthroughs. Heavy fighting continues near Chasiv Yar, including battles inside the city, as well as Stupochki and Bila Hora. However, Russian troops failed to make progress. Near Toretsk, Russian forces launched fresh assaults, but Ukrainian officers on the ground reported that the enemy failed to achieve meaningful gains despite claims from Russian sources. Instead, Russian forces rely on small sabotage and reconnaissance groups to attack Ukrainian positions on the flanks. West of Pokrovsk, Ukrainian forces carried out counterattacks near Udachny, Kotlin, Uspenivka, Novovasilivka, Zviren, Yelizavetivka, and Vodian Dru. Ukrainian military sources report a reduction in Russian frontal assaults due to manpower shortages, forcing Russian commanders to attempt flanking maneuvers.
The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration released images and video on Sunday of an immigration enforcement operation at a Colorado nightclub outside Denver where 50 people were taken into custody. According to Associated Press, the early morning raid Sunday was part of a ramped-up deportation action promised by U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump administration officials, including Border Czar Tom Homan and the acting Deputy Attorney General, visited Chicago on Sunday to witness operations in the nation's third-largest city. Few details of the operation were immediately made public, including the number of arrests. But the sheer number of federal agencies involved showed Trump's willingness to use federal law enforcement beyond the Department of Homeland Security to carry out his long-promised mass deportations. Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove said he observed agents from DHS, FBI, Drug Enforcement Administration and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives. He didn't offer further details on the operation. "We will support everyone at the federal, state, and local levels who joins this critical mission to take back our communities," Bove said in a statement. "We will use all available tools to address obstruction and other unlawful impediments to our efforts to protect the homeland. Most importantly, we will not rest until the work is done." The DEA's Chicago office also posted pictures on X showing Bove and Homan with agents from ATF and Customs and Border Protection. Since Trump took office, similar immigration enforcement operations have been publicized around the country, which U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement says are ongoing.